All right, you guys. So this is a little experiment that I have going on, which is I bought a microphone that I can take with me on my walk with my dogs. So it's very sunny outside. The weather is great. I am hoping that the audio quality is perfect for you today. So what I would like to discuss with you today is actually, I remembered one idea that I had, another idea I had while writing. So there, as you remember, the think story idea was, I think, one of the, probably the most important insights I had for myself while writing this novel. But there's another one that was also slightly related to that idea. So again, think story is, if you think about your story, stop thinking about yourself. If you think about yourself, start thinking about your story. Watch my first video on this channel about this topic. I think it's a very important insight still. And there's another insight. It's not a rule. Again, I don't like the concept of applying rules while writing. But the other thing that I would like to discuss with you today is more in regards to a frame of mind that will motivate you to keep on writing, to keep working on your story if you feel maybe, if you feel like you're not progressing. And in order to present this idea, I would like you to imagine a place, imagine the most beautiful place that you can imagine. Maybe there are the mountains, a lake. Imagine this beautiful place. Make it as beautiful as you can. Similar to what you would do in a story. Maybe there are some fantastic elements in there. Maybe some fantastic creatures. Now try and imagine that. Imagine the weather, the smell, the sounds. Imagine all that. And now, after you imagine all that, destroy this place. Completely destroy it. Not not destroying in the sense that you still know that this place existed once. Destroy it completely. Like there's nothing anymore. Nothing. A complete gap. Darkness. This removal of this beautiful place is what you do when you stop writing your story. When you start writing a story or a book, a novel, you start to imagine places, you start to imagine characters, and, well, you create a new world in your head that makes sense for you. And if you stop writing this story, if you're not going all the way until you finish that story, what you are doing is eradicating this whole world. I'd like you to think about that. It's not just laying down the pen or stop opening the file on your computer one day and abandoning the story. It's eradicating this world that you started to imagine. another interesting aspect, and this is actually the first idea that I had. Well, this was actually the original idea that I had. The idea about imagining the place came secondary today while thinking about it again. But the other idea is, imagine all the characters that you created, with all their flaws, with all their heroicness, the good characters, the bad characters. Also, well, all of the characters that are not really important to your story, but that the characters that also exist in your world. Like the families living in a remote area. And now, if you imagine all of those characters standing in front of you right now, maybe in the place that you imagined beforehand, and imagine that these characters are blaming you for removing them from existence, taking away their existence. This is what you're doing when you're abandoning your story. All of these characters are removed from our shared existence. You owe it to your characters, you owe it to your story that these places that you imagined live on, that these characters live on. I don't want to sound overly dramatic here, but if you really think about this thought, then you realize that there is some truth to that. Of course your characters didn't exist. Of course they don't have a life similar to our life. They are still fictional characters. But if you write a story, you shouldn't think about that there is a difference between their existence and ours. You are trying to create a world that the reader is able to imagine, a world that he would maybe like to live in, that he would like to be a part of, a world that he can connect to. And therefore, if you are thinking about abandoning your story, you should think about what you're actually doing and what your role is as an author. This brings me back to another thought while writing my novel and coming up with all these ideas, and I think Stephen King mentioning that it's similar to an archaeologist uncovering like an ancient ruin or what have you, and that these ideas were maybe existing before they were existing before you had these ideas. Basically, you are uncovering the ideas. And if you think about it, this also changes your role as an author. Because at some point, you are able to step back from your story, remove yourself from the story, and let the world exist. Let all the elements interact with each other. And when that happens, your world starts to make sense. If it's able to exist by itself, then you reach the point of, I think, creating a great world. This relates to the idea that you can, a story is like planting a seed. You plant the seed, then it grows without your intervention. It's like the difference between people who are plotting and the difference, like gardeners and architects. I think that's how George R.R. Martin called these ideas. So this frame of mind, I think, will help you take the perspective of a real writer. I think this is what you have to do. And of course, there is reasons to abandon a story. I abandoned like 50 short stories, maybe even more, and about 4 or 5 novels that I put a lot of time in. I can't even count. As I said yesterday or the day before, the first novel that I write was science fiction. That was probably like 200 pages long. 200 pages that I completely eradicated. A whole world that I stopped thinking about. It's probably, while thinking about it, I should probably return to these stories, because that's what I did with my current novel. I went back, saw the story, saw the world, saw the general idea of what I was trying to say, and said to me, this deserves more attention from my perspective. This deserves all of the skills that I developed while trying to write for years. And looking into the world with fresh eyes, with developed perspective, I was able to make it into something better. And now I actually think that I owe it to this world that this is published, this is shared with other minds, that this world really existed. But I hope this frame of mind helps you in developing your story. And now I will go back to my computer and see if that recording really was worth it. Thank you.